Hi, I'm Mark Walker. I'm the co-founder of the Fintech Power 50. We're here at Seamless Middle East in Dubai, and we're here at Seamless TV. First off, I'm going to ask my interviewee to introduce himself to you, the audience.
Hi, my name is Vasile Valcov. I'm Chief Commercial Officer with SaltEdge.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's on to day 2 now, so I'm guessing we're all a little bit tired now. We've been walking around a lot and spending a lot of time talking to people.
Yes, we are a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously SaltEdge, one would argue the pioneering of open banking globally, maybe, but definitely we've seen you an awful lot in the region. I just sort of think, obviously Saudi Arabia has a lot of directives when it comes to open banking. So maybe talk us a little bit about the differences that you're finding here in the UAE, for example.
Yeah, well, the biggest difference, there is no open banking regulation here. So what's happening in Saudi Arabia, what's happening in Jordan, what happened in the UK and the EU is going to happen here as well, but in the next few years. And the first step is for the regulator to issue the mandate and the rules by which the banks and the ecosystem will develop and evolve. However, there's a high interest about open banking because this is a regulation, but it's also a concept, it's also a service. As an unregulated markets, you have open banking use cases, even in the UAE. So there's definitely a drive and an interest for more and for better access with more security, for getting access to the data and for doing lots of things with payments.
Okay, I was going to say, obviously, this whole MENA region is very much payment-centric when it comes to fintech. So are you seeing a sort of a desire for things like open payments, which obviously in Europe we're starting to think about a little bit more involved?
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's on both sides of the open banking services, the account information and the payment initiation services. As you well know, and I think our viewers by now, payment initiation allows for account-to-account access through secure means, which is a cheaper method for doing payments. I've also talked to people that are interested about cross-border payments and how those costs could be brought down. I don't know, this is something probably for the next 5 to 7 years, but if countries and open banking regimes would be talking to one another and maybe build some new rails that offer better payments, faster payments, cheaper payments, everybody would benefit from it.
I think, as you say, the understanding of what the benefits of open payments will bring is there. Within the MENA region specifically, it's obviously a very fragmented market with very different regulations, within the UAE to Qatar to Bahrain, elsewhere. Do you see that there needs to be an alignment of open banking regulation to enable much more cross-border payments?
Well, I think it would definitely help the ecosystem evolve because what happened in the EU was basically a regulation that gives you access to 27 countries. That makes it easier for anyone who wants to enter the space. Not that it is easy, right? It's still a regulation. You have to apply for a license. You have to have all those policies, security, people, and everything. So, and here, if you want to go regionally, that means you have to go through that process in each country if you want to do it yourself, or you have to find a right partner that can give you that access to the banks across all of the countries. And I think that's part of our mission, to make it simple for our existing clients, but also future partners to get access to multiple regulated markets in an easy way.
Okay. And with regards to sort of partnerships you're looking for, what sort of partnerships are the most interesting for SaltEdge at the moment?
I think one of the hot spaces right now when we talk with banks about open banking compliance and open banking APIs, it's not just to stop at the regulatory requirements, but how banks can monetize the investment they do in these API platforms. And I've had discussions even here, even today, with banks that invest in, let's say, digital channels for corporate customers. And I asked them, guys, do you have corporate clients that ask about APIs, that they want to consume the services you give them, not just through a web channel or a mobile channel? Yes, we do. Well, okay, then we talk about premium APIs, commercial APIs, and monetizing these platforms for the benefit of all.
Yeah. So I guess instead of sort of pure open banking, you're actually talking more about how can you help them with their API development, their API libraries to enable interaction with maybe their merchants and their consumers, etc.
Exactly, yeah. Because open banking is great, but it has limitations. So You very well know about the VRPs in the UK that appeared because there were limitations with the simple open banking payments, but it goes much further behind it. So for a bank to invest in open APIs, it means they can loyalize their existing clients because they offer them better services, increase the lifetime value of a customer, but also maybe to find new distribution channels to get new customers. And one of the greatest examples, I think, is the partnership that Apple has with Goldman Sachs in the US. So there are two main directions I see that could benefit banks in this.
Okay, and thinking obviously open banking as a theme has sort of gone through very many different transformations in the UK, and there's a lot of talk about what the next steps will be in the UK. Do you feel that the Middle East region is maybe slightly ahead of the game because they've kind of come into it at a different point?
They're definitely looking farther away from day one, and I think this is really good for the banks and for the ecosystem, because in the EU what we've seen was the banks looking at this as a pure compliance exercise, even though some of them were talking about strategic visions and whatnot, but it took many years until we've seen banks get active in the open banking space. Which is, again, very nice and very good because it brings open banking to the masses, and I'm talking about the large banks. And here, from day one, banks want to know what they can do with open banking beyond compliance. And that puts at the table different stakeholders from inside the bank that they talk to each other and they think, okay, so we want to do, a lending use case or multi-banking for consumers or for businesses. What type of data do we need for that? What kind of structure would it be required? So, and this discussion happens not just between banks and partners, but also between different banks at conferences like this as well. So I would hope this would give us a higher quality open banking service sooner than what it's been in Europe. So,
okay, that's right. There is some that would say, a follower or the second person to implement is always the better one because they can learn from the first person's mistakes, I guess. One interesting thing I was going to ask you about the show Seamless, there is obviously a mixture of retail and fintech in this sort of conference. Do you think that helps SaltEdge and open banking? Does that retail arm need to learn more about open banking possibilities?
Well, the more we talk about open banking, the better. So e-commerce is one area that can definitely can benefit from open banking rails. Again, both account information for onboarding merchants or verifying the bank account details, automating some of the processes, and then payments. Again, faster payments, better payments, cheaper payments. So having discussions with players in this area is helpful also for them. We try to educate the market, we try to bring open banking to the masses. So every time we get this opportunity, we'll take it.
Absolutely. And I guess for the last sort of question, thinking about sort of the future and that sort of stuff, how far off do you think we are from, having an aligned open banking structure in MIA? Are we 2 years away, 3 years away? What's your sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think around 3 years would be the timeline that I see right now.
And what do you think is the key thing that needs to happen to flick a switch to make it progress?
Well, higher quality APIs, better tech on side of the banks that provide these APIs. I think this is the obstacle right now in some cases.
Do you find that the banks in the region here are technologically a little bit behind sort of European banks from their tech stacks and everything else? Or?
I think it depends because there are many
they're
banks,
all as bad as each other.
You have banks with high tech and medium tech and somebody that wants to innovate, so it's quite varied. Same as in Europe, I think. You have the whole gamma of banks.
The whole range. So just onwards and upwards. More exposure into the region for SaltEdge and a lot more work to do, I guess.
Yeah. Like last year we announced our expansion to Saudi. Beginning of the year we did that in Jordan, and UAE is coming on the roadmap.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for spending time with me at Seamless TV, powered by the Fintech Times.
Thank you for inviting me, Mark.